Oh, snap! It's another Snap review from the Family Gamers.
So, Anitra, do you know what a codex is?
Yeah, it's a sort of an ancient book that was hand-lettered and hand-bound. It's not as easy to read as a modern book, but a whole lot easier than a scroll or a wax tablet.
And a codex was the first reference book, since you can open it to anywhere and give ample room for illustrations.
And use both sides of the page. Wow.
Medieval thinkers like Galileo hoped to catalog all that was known of the natural world and create a Codex Naturalis.
Codex Naturalis is a small card game designed by Thomas Dupont and illustrated by Maxime Morin. 2 to 4 players can play in about half an hour, there's no reading required, and it's for ages 7 and up.
In this game, you'll compile information about the 4 kingdoms living in the forest: animals, plants, insects, and fungi. I'm a fungi. To add to your Codex Naturalis.
Yep.
So, Anitra, let's talk about the art in this little game.
So the cards are really small, but they're gorgeous. There's these monochrome illustrations with saturated purple or red or blue or green, and they're set off by gold foil highlights.
They're so pretty.
Look at how pretty they
So
are.
pretty. There's really no other game that quite looks like this and captures some of that ancient illustrated manuscript feel.
The symbology on the cards is clear, but it did take a little getting used to.
Yeah, and you need that to play the game, so let's talk about how to play Codex Naturalis.
At the beginning of the game, you'll get a hand of 3 cards, plus a starter card to lay on the table, and a secret objective.
Each turn, you'll play a card from your hand, then draw a card to replace it.
Playing a card means covering 1 or more corners of cards that are already in your display on the table. You can only cover open corners, which are indicated with bold outlines. But some of these corners have resources on them.
Plants, animals, insects, and fungi.
When you cover a resource, it's no longer available for you to use.
But why would you want resources? Because the gold cards, which are the ones that award points, require you to have certain combinations of resources showing in your display before you can put them down.
Each gold card has its own requirements and its own way to award points. Some are a flat 3 or 5 points. Some are 2 points per corner covered when you put the card down. And some award points for showing bookmaking objects: quills, inkwells, and papers.
After you've played a card, choose a new card, either from the resources or from the gold stack.
If it turns out you can't or don't want to play a card from your hand face up, you're always allowed to play it face down, whether it's a resource card or a gold card. This gives you 4 open corners and a resource in the middle of the card that can't possibly be covered.
Track your points on the central board as you receive them. And when a player reaches 20 points, or the 2 card decks run out, finish the round and give every player 1 more turn.
Remember those secret objectives we mentioned earlier? Every player has a secret objective, and there are also 2 common objectives face up on the table.
Objectives award points for sets of matching resources, sets of bookmaking objects, or specific card arrangements. And they can be earned more than once if you have enough sets.
At the end of the game, everyone calculates additional points earned from meeting these objectives.
So, Anitra, what did we expect from Codex Naturalis?
Every Bombyx game I've ever seen has been beautiful, and this is no exception. I was surprised by just how small this box is, though. And I'm not usually a fan of games that use really small cards like these ones.
Reading through the rulebook, there are some typos and misprints. It's not enough to make the game difficult to understand, but it's helpful to be aware of them if you encounter them, because it could lead to some confusion.
I was a little confused because the box says 7+, but once we opened this up and looked at the rulebook, it seemed kind of complicated, and there was a lot of detail on the cards. So I just wasn't sure how that was all going to work together with the gameplay. So let's talk about the surprises. The first surprise is that these small cards are still nice and clear for almost everything. And being this small keeps the game from being a total table hog.
With the art style on these cards and the way you can overlap all the different cards, including finding ways for branches to re-overlap if you do it right, it really felt like I was building this complex interrelated world, which was probably my favorite part of the game.
This is a relaxing and gently puzzling sort of game, but our kids didn't love it. Part of that is the theme, which is just not that interesting for them, but part of it is because of the way the points are scored.
Although Codex Naturalis is all about building your own manuscript for points, the points are publicly tracked and they become the endgame trigger. This kind of meant that our kids felt like they were falling behind, or they focused too much on the points on the cards themselves and less about the objectives, both public and private.
And those objectives can allow huge jumps at the end of the game. So Andrew, would we recommend Codex Naturalis?
I think we do recommend Codex Naturalis. It's probably not a game that I'd pull out with my youngest gamers, but this is a good game to start playing with that middle age range. The box says it goes down to 7, and that's about right. It will make your younger kids feel a little bit older as they play a game that artistically feels so mature.
This is a serious subject, cataloging the plants and animals and fungus, etc. of the world.
It is. So, what would we rate Codex Naturalis from Bombyx?
I think we're going to give it 3.5 pages out of 5.
And that's Codex Naturalis
In a snap. And I almost held the box upside down. Good job.
It's like a sign.